Coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona, home of Super Bowl 57, it's the Geary, Stein and Stevens Show with your hosts, Troy Geary, Will Stein, and Dave Stevens. Welcome back to Radio Row. This is Dave Stevens, part of the Geary, Stein and Stevens Show, and the chaos and madness continues. We've had a great morning talking to a lot of people. Lee Steinberg was here, and we talked to Jim Everett, and we've been having the hit makers, and now our guest today is no stranger to making those hits. He was a linebacker in the NFL for, I believe, 8 seasons in the NFL. And those seasons were packed with a lot of punch. So Shawne Merriman joining us here on Radio Row for a little bit, and we'll talk some football and some other stuff. But you've moved into sort of overseeing a little different career than football. So explain what LXF 8 is, and I don't want to demean it. It's for our basic listeners. It's kind of like minor leagues of MMA, training, getting ready, and helping them transition to hopefully get to that point of to be an Ultimate Fighter or MMA fighter, correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We just had for Lights Out Extreme Fighting, my MMA promotion, and we just had a huge event a couple weeks ago in Riverside, California, where we broke the top 10 most watched for Fubo Sports records. So if you guys don't have Fubo, get it. We got a big fight coming up in April in Los Angeles. But yes, I started training back in 2005, 2006. I just wanted to get better on my hand-eye coordination and be an active hand as an outside linebacker pass rusher. And every offseason I continue to do it, and I launched Lights Out Extreme Fighting in 2018.
But what about, again, in the NFL, you have a helmet on your head and you're protected with some pads. I mean, I hope I never experienced this, but to be hit by a hand and be punched, I mean, how do you train for that? How do you mentally prepare, not be, shit, I don't want to get hit,
Yeah. Well, I think the object is not to get hit, right? I don't think anyone trains to get punched in their face. But, I think MMA is a growing sport. It's still growing. It's really only been around, in the mainstream media for about 15, 20 years. And it's become such a global phenomenon. And our last fight we had, it was on Fubo Sports, but we were seen in Canada, France, and some parts of Spain. So it was our first global event. So even though that, people know me here in the country, I got now people on my Instagram and direct messages from France and Spain. I know they don't know too much about football out there, so it was pretty cool for that to happen.
For those that don't know, you had an iconic sack celebration. How did you decide on that, and how long have you had your nickname Lights Out?
So my sophomore year in high school, I knocked out 4 guys in one game. And after that, I had 20 students come right up to me and say, man, you knocked those right after the game. You knocked those guys lights out. And I looked at him and said, yeah, you know what? Call me Lights Out. And I didn't think it was going to stick the way it did. I got to school Monday, and everybody was calling me Lights for Lights Out. I went home that day, and I begged my mom to let me get a Lights Out switch tattoo on my right forearm. And she looked at me and said, boy, get the hell out the room. And I ended up convincing her after 2 weeks to let me get the switch. So whenever I'm doing the sack dance, it's me flipping the light switch on and off and Lights Out. So that's where that came from.
That's better than my nickname, which was Bedwetter, but we won't get into what the no. That's an old ESPN commercial. My buddy Kenny Mayne, right?
If the lights go out, then you can wet the bed. I guess that's what normally happens.
So what made you go from a violent sport to pretty much an even more violent sport, given it is one-on-one and you could walk away being knocked out?
Yeah, I mean, fighting is the oldest sport in this world. It's been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. I mean, it's been a sport for a long time. And outside of the violence, there's just different disciplines of it. You got jiu-jitsu and great wrestlers and Muay Thai guys and boxing, guys who are great strikers and standing up. So it's just, not about just going to knock each other's heads off or whatever. And I think that the more and more people gravitate to the sport, they'll start to understand the disciplines of all these actions in mixed martial arts.
And I'm just wondering, you've got I've heard that other NFL players are taking interest in this, and you're almost recruiting. They're coming to you. What does it extend their life or give them a new challenge? Like, what are you finding out why they want to be a part of something that hurts a lot more?
Yeah, well, to be honest, we've seen guys like Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson, Le'Veon Bell, who've all kind of migrated over to combat sports, and I've actively, been talking to several former NFL guys, and some of these guys are waiting to retire, so they can come on over. But my career was cut short, and I still had a lot left in the tank. I felt good, and I was still able to train. Some of these guys, from Alabama or Oklahoma, Ohio State, these big linebackers and strong safeties who have a shorter NFL career, they're looking to prolong their career in something else. And, I just give them a segue and a path to come and do it at Lights Out Extreme Fight.
I want to ask you about NILs. I know you were played in the Big Ten at Maryland from DC area. What is your personal opinion on that, and how much money would have made if you played in this day and age?
A lot, a lot. I definitely would have licensed out Lights Out a long time ago. But I think it's great, and it's about time. I've always said that the guys should have some form of compensation. Now, I do think with NILs, there will be some scale back at some point in time because the money is so great. And you don't want to distort a young kid's future based on financial yet. And they're not proven that they have things to do. So I think that there will be some scale back in at some point. But I love the guys getting paid. I think they should. They bring a lot of money to the university. They own their own names. You can't, the mindset about not being able to get money from your own name was always baffling to me. So seeing these guys get opportunity to do that has been great.
Yeah, it's been a weird, back when you were playing in college and you could have, I forget what even the brands were that tried to put out video games with you guys in it.
Oh, yeah.
And they were making money, but they were utilizing your likenesses with, all these kind of things. So, but what's going to happen now? There's two separate things. There's the transfer portal and then there's getting paid. So, this is just begging for some sort of scandal, though. Do you think? Before it was always under the table. Now you can go, hey, I want him at Nebraska, or I want him at Maryland, or I want to go, and Deion Sanders is going to build this mega team in Colorado. So, how are they going to police this? So the person with the most money, it's not the top 5 teams, the powerhouses that are going to be in the games every year.
Well, as long as they go into Maryland, I don't have a problem with it. But it's a scandal for everybody else. No, I think that that's what I'm talking about when I say scale back, right? I think they'll get it'll get to a point where there has to be some kind of levels and structure to how to go about it. You don't want these young kids making a financial decision when they're too young to make it, right? Because maybe they have influence as parents, maybe they have influence around them, and you can change the trajectory of your career if you don't make the right decision at a young age.
Sorry about that. I was muted. I want to ask you about your career with the Chargers, the Bills. You play with a lot of great players.
Yeah.
You were a great player. Drew Brees, LaDainian Thomas, I can go on and on. I want to ask you about Bobby Beathard. He just passed away. What do you remember about him? I know he was kind of toward the end there in San Diego, but
yeah, I got a chance to meet him when I came in, and I think that AJ Smith came in and took over. But I got a chance to meet Mr. Beathard, and it was great, man. It was it's unfortunate, but he meant a lot to the organization, and his name still rang bells when I walked in, and just some of his decisions. And I would hear all these a lot of cool stories, a lot of not so cool stories, which is still cool to me just to hear some of the old school stuff. So that was it was tragic.
And Shawne, as far as we got to, before we let you go, analyze the teams, break it down for us. There's going to be a winner or a loser. I think the league really won this year with a matchup of 2 amazing quarterbacks. It's a historic game as far as the 2 first black quarterbacks. We got brothers going against each other. We've got a former coach, so there's great storylines, but the bottom line is what's going to happen on the field. And I just want to know, you don't have to make a prediction, but just what are your guts?
Yeah, I'll make a nice prediction for you. I think that the best team in football is going to win. And unfortunately, I did pick against Patrick Mahomes last week, and only because of his health. If he was fully healthy, that was a guaranteed win. But he wasn't, and he showed a lot of us he proved a lot of us wrong. I've had that injury, that mild high ankle sprain that he has, and that's a 2-week deal. I don't care who you are. I remember walking around in a walking boot, and I just didn't even feel like I can jog on it almost 2 weeks later. So how he was out there maneuvering and getting outside the pocket and throwing on a run and icing the game at the end, with that long run he had at the end, I haven't seen anything like that. So it's hard to go against him except when you're playing against the most talented team in football. And I'm not just saying talent because of the names. These guys in all three phases of the game. There's not a single position that's a weak link on this team. And so when you look at that, it's going to be hard to overcome.
Yeah, we talk about wanting a good Super Bowl, and I think we've got a really, really good one. And speaking of good ones, if you like what I'm wearing, well, I'm wearing fresh, clean threads. So is Troy over there, and only exclusively to us. How cool is that? We got a code that gives you 25% off of these wonderful clothes. They wash, they wear. You don't have to iron them. They're great. Type in the code touchdown and go to freshcleantees.com/GSS show. You type in the code touchdown, 25% off. It's exclusive. You're not going to get this anywhere else on Fresh Clean Threads, any other shows. They like us. I like being liked. It helps us to get excellent guests like Shawne Merriman as we wrap up the second part of this. So what do you see the LXF turning into? Could you work with the MMA and kind of merge where you're the minor leagues of this? You get a reality show, you start streaming things. I mean, what's the ultimate goal for this Ultimate Fighting?
Well, one, I want to give these up-and-coming fighters an opportunity, right, to showcase. We got a great partner in Fubo Sports, Fubo TV. Like I said, if you don't have Fubo, get it. We got some big announcements coming up in April. I'm hoping I'll be able to announce some of these former athletes that's coming on board. And you're right, we do have a show that I've already shot a pilot for about these former athletes coming over. And it is some crazy, crazy stories. You have no idea, like the downtime of what happens after the post-career of some of these guys and how they found their way back into lights out extreme fighting.
Now, what about this acting bug that you every now and then you show up in Entourage, you show up and I heard a rumor that you're on The Bachelor and you and Antonio Gates. So I don't know what you can talk about, what you can share, but like you're a good-looking dude. You should be in TV and movies. I mean, do you ever think about that kind of thing? And tell us a little bit about that secret.
Yeah, so the secret is out. Your Bachelor came on Monday, and it's funny. I've always I've always watched The Bachelor. I don't know how many years now, 20 plus. I mean, I've always kind of watched it. That was always an intriguing show. But when I signed on, I thought initially it was going to be like a two-hand touch flag football game that we were coaching. And the girls came out and they had full-on helmets, shoulder pads, and cleats, and they were trying to take each other's heads off, and I loved it. And it for sure was not because I was on it, but it was my favorite episode because it was totally unexpected. These girls out there were really gunning for love, and they got after it. It was great.
But do you want to be in front of the camera? You seem very comfortable doing this and talking, and you always were very eloquent when you were a player. So you've got the chops for it. Are you enjoying it more?
Yeah.
Or could we see you being the commentator on your telecast?
Yeah, I'm always popping it out of the broadcast, but it's much different when you're running the show. And so you're sitting there worrying about the satellite truck, and you're looking at the lights and the people coming in.
You're like a cool Vince McMahon, right?
Yeah. And I spent time with Vince McMahon. I learned a lot just from being around him for a short period of time, and see how dedicated his love and passion for the WWE, and seeing how he's the king of sports entertainment, man. He really is, and he has been for a long time. And to get a chance to experience that and pick up some tips and learn a little bit was cool for me.
Well, it's been great spending a little time with you. I know you got to take off. The website is lightsoutxf.com. And your social media plugs, where can they find you?
Yep, find me at Shawne Merriman on Twitter and Instagram, and at LightsOutXF. LightsOutXF. Check us out on lightsoutxf.com for all the information on the upcoming fight as well on Fubo Sports, Fubo TV. If you don't have it, get it. Got some big announcements and big fights coming up on Fubo.
When a 3-time former Pro Bowler tells you to go to a website, you better go to that website. So thank you so much for being a part of our show and being with us. And got more coming up. So stay tuned right here on Geary, Stein and Stevens. You never know who's going to pop by. We got a cool guy that just joined us. Now we got to give him a fresh, clean thread shirt before he gets out of here. I'm Dave Stevens for Troy Geary. We'll see you in a little bit.